Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in. Today, we're going to be taking a step back and talking about, I guess speculating is more so the word, of what can help fuel the next run for Bitcoin. Now, let me preface this before I even get into any detail. I think, regardless of what happens, whether it's something that I've said that turns out to be right or something else, I think ultimately the price of Bitcoin will continue to run to a new market cycle peak. Now, whenever that does happen, there will be news outlets, talking heads, myself, someone else, claiming that this X thing, whatever that may be, what is the catalyst or what fueled the market. Now we'll go through a lot of a few different things. Some are very popular notions. Others might be not as thought through. But regardless, this is going to be a part one of a two-part series. This one being what will fuel the Bitcoin run, and the second one will be the complete opposite, looking at the other side of the coin and talking about what would cause this bubble to pop. And yes, it is a bubble. No matter how would you like to call it, this market, as it has done in the past, goes into these manic bubbles every single time and then crashes. You look at the monthly chart on the BLX ever since inception, okay? Price increase, then drop. Price increase that exceeds the prior all-time high, then drop, so on and so forth. So you cannot. I don't necessarily want to hear the fact that uh, Bitcoin's not in a bubble. It's actually undervalued. I don't really care. What the point of the fact of the matter is that Bitcoin has a structure of a boom and bust cycle, and this is something that I welcome, and I'm sure you welcome. These booms that Bitcoin has can allow you to accumulate a lot of capital. And on the flip side, these busts can also lose you a lot of capital. But it's moves like these that really start creating the wealth for you. This is something that you don't see in any other market whatsoever. It's not something that you see in the stock market or in commodities, bonds, none of that. Nothing with this kind of, when we talk relatively long term, we're talking years, but, when we're talking about 3,000% gains since 2018 to where we are now, or sorry, 1,000% from 2018 to now. That's unprecedented. Nothing that you can really see generally in the stock market if you just buy through the S&P. So to get that out of the way, yes, Bitcoin is in a bubble, and it will be in a bubble for quite a long time. It can last for a very long time, as we have seen in 2017. It can last for a very long time, and the current situation is the same. So, with this current lull in Bitcoin, we had a drop of 35% against the US dollar in the month of May, and we're kind of struggling right now for the month of June. With that said, what can spark the next run? Because I've gone on record saying that I don't think $64,000 is necessarily the market cycle top. The indicators don't show that to me, and it really doesn't seem like just basing it off experience of the last cycle doesn't necessarily you know present me substantial evidence to say that this is the market cycle top. I could be wrong, but let's say that I am not wrong and say that there is a second leg for Bitcoin to get to a higher valuation, whether it's 100,000, 200, $300,000, whatever you want to call it. I'm talking about that run. Well, one is obviously the most popular, institutional investing. Right now, there are I believe 30 companies right now that have gone on record saying that they have Bitcoin on their balance sheet. One of them being Tesla, and Tesla being the in the top 10 of largest companies by market cap, okay, with a valuation of 595, $600 billion in market cap. What can really fuel this next leg, and it's something that I would maybe with my tinfoil hat kind of suspect what's going on right now with this further decline, is it gives an opportunity for investors to um, institutional investing to further invest into Bitcoin or to consider it. If something of a company in the top 10, whether that's Facebook, a FANG stock company, Apple, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Facebook, if Tesla doubles down, or if we see a Korean company like Samsung, or a bank for that matter, that like JP Morgan Chase, which I highly doubt. But this video is for fun. That we're just here to speculate. Visa, whatever you want to call it, starts holding Bitcoin on their balance sheets. This could be another catalyst that can help fuel the next run. We already see what Tesla has done in regards to short-term price movements when it has gone on the record saying that it is buying Bitcoin on their balance sheet. And we also seen what people like Michael Saylor have done in his financial company, and when they have gone on record saying that they're buying Bitcoin and they're continuing to buy Bitcoin thus far. It's pretty insane actually to think about Michael Saylor's company that they're accumulating that much Bitcoin. I think they now own like 90,000 Bitcoin or something like that now, probably a little more. Now, these are the things that could fuel the next run. Regardless if it's the institutional money alone, I don't think that's enough. It's probably going to be a mixture of institutional investing plus retail investors fueling the price to continue it to go to higher highs. And definitely, if someone like a Facebook, an Apple, a Google, an Amazon, Microsoft, or even we can put on this record, a nation for that matter, putting Bitcoin on their balance sheet could definitely help prop up the price and inflate the price even further. The second one, which is less likely, is general favorability from the SEC. Now, this would be somewhat of an indirect correlation, an indirect effect on Bitcoin's price. The first theory of institutional investing would be a direct like a direct effect because they're buying actual Bitcoin. The SEC is not by no means going to be buying Bitcoin. However, they're the main authoritative figure within the financial system where they can greatly affect Bitcoin's price by creating regulation, by creating policy. Now, obviously, that policy is not going to be uh, directly towards Bitcoin, but it will be directed towards the players at hand that do affect Bitcoin. We're talking about exchanges, other altcoins. The SEC has already deemed Bitcoin not a security. They have deemed Ethereum decentralized enough for it not to be a security. They're right now on the heels of XRP deeming it as a security. We're kind of seeing we've already saw what the SEC can do in terms of ICOs and bringing that market down and bringing it into line. Probably what's going to be the next step is other digital assets, as well as projects like XRP and etc., where they're going to be deeming them as securities or not. Now, we don't exactly know yet. However, if there's a favorable hearing from SEC, regardless whether it's for XRP or favorability among projects themselves that allow projects to enter into the United States, we might see that. This is something that's highly speculative. I doubt that they're going to be as favorable as what people might think, but it's something to think about. I mean, they've already cracked down on exchanges. Binance has its own US monitored site where they restrict certain assets. Coinbase also restricts certain assets. What else? There's a bunch of there's a bunch of companies. I think like FTX US is because I use FTX. There's FTX US that allows for US trading, and there's also assets like Celsius, for example, who've created a platform for users to earn interest on their cryptocurrencies that have restricted use cases in the United States. And depending on what state you are, it gets even more hairy. Favorability from the SEC and authoritative figures like the government can help prop up the price and inflate it even more. This is something that's to be highly speculative because in any case, um, it's more likely that they'll clamp down and regulate rather than provide more favorable policies towards cryptocurrencies. At the same time, you can have assets or nations embracing the asset. We've already seen that with El Salvador, and most likely we'll see that continuing on in the coming years ahead of us. Having said that, El Salvador is not the United States. As great as it is, the influential power of El Salvador is peanuts in comparison to the European Union, Japan, China, and the United States, where a majority of crypto trading actually happens, and majority of where liquidity is. And with that, or you can add in Singapore, Taiwan. It's definitely um, spread enough around the globe, but unfortunately El Salvador isn't one of them. And my guess is that the countries that are going to be embracing Bitcoin are going to be nations like El Salvador that have either I believe with even El Salvador, correct me if I'm wrong, they do not have a native currency. Their native currency is either the US dollar or now Bitcoin. You could probably see other nation states that are struggling with hyperinflation, struggling maintaining the value of their own fiat currency, embracing Bitcoin because now they're exposed to a currency that is free floating in the sense that it's an a a correlated asset. El Salvador would embrace this and would probably benefit from them, albeit exposing them to an immense amount of risk. But when push comes to shove for nations in order to keep their economy stable, they might be considering embracing Bitcoin. And the more and more countries, depending on how many there are in which country, can also help boost the inflate the price of Bitcoin. Having said that, we already seen the true test of Bitcoin's price consider of when El Salvador decided to embrace it and but the Bitcoin price did not move. We might see another nation, a more interesting nation for that matter, maybe Turkey. Turkey is a larger nation, a larger economy that's also facing inflation issues and with the lira they might be able to look into the possibility of embracing Bitcoin. But again, you're also giving up some sort of currency sovereignty when doing so. So it's definitely a difficult situation. Another, uh, and the third one I would add into this theory of what could be the next catalyst for Bitcoin's move uh, upwards to a new market cycle peak would be the unknown. Currently, right now, there are 10,486 cryptocurrencies currently trading in the space. The top 10 we know very well. It is Bitcoin, Ethereum, Tether, Binance, Cardano, Dogecoin, XRP, USDC, Polkadot, and Uniswap. Having said that, what I mean by the unknown, much like in my previous video when I talk about what the top 10 cryptocurrencies could look like in 10 years, it could be a project that has not yet existed, a current system that has not yet existed. The ICOs could have been the catalyst, some would argue, of the previous Bitcoin run, where we saw Bitcoin shoot up from a valuation of about $162 to $20,000. The ICOs were very much in part of that play, and most likely one of the main reasons why Bitcoin's price, as well as the other cryptocurrencies in the space, inflated so high. Now that doesn't mean that that isn't the same for the 2012 to 2014 run and before that. Every run is different, and there's obviously different arguments to be made of what sparks those specific runs. For this specific run, the one that we're currently in. It could be something that we have yet not known. It could be DeFi. It could be NFTs. We already seen the boom and bust of NFTs right now, as more and more people that that have bought NFTs during the peak are now stuck with these non-fungible tokens and are unable to unload them. This is one of the deathly consequences of such a new kind of system like NFTs. And having said that, it's not even that new. Crypto kitties were the first iterations of them, and those started out in the prior cycle. But having said that, NFTs had another boom, obviously helped inflate the price of Ethereum and Bitcoin, as well as the rest of the crypto market, and has now subsided. It can boom again. It can boom again and help inflate the price even further. DeFi is another one. Now, in my previous video, when I talk about wrapped Bitcoin being in the top 10, I had DeFi in mind. Applications that allow users to utilize their Bitcoin in new and innovative ways have a chance to help inflate the price of Bitcoin. Whether that's wrapped Bitcoin, like what we see here, putting Bitcoin in allowing Bitcoin to be traded along the Ethereum network, allowing it to be used in DEXs and automated market makers, into interest-bearing accounts like Compound, etc. This is something to take into consideration. DeFi is fairly new. And by what I mean by fairly new is it's about maybe 4 years old. It started in around 2018, if I'm not mistaken, and we're already going into 2021, almost 2022. With that said, we have yet to see the full potential of DeFi. In my opinion, I believe it will continue to rise, and it could be the next quote unquote ICO craze that helped fuel the last bull run. That obviously comes with immeasurable risks. ICOs, if you weren't there, was crazy. It was absolutely insane. And there were a lot of pump and dumps. Having said that, we don't see, necessarily quote unquote scam ICOs. I mean, you do in certain projects, but it's more so the inducive idea of yield farming and using different assets to help yield hundreds of percent of APY on these certain projects. I think there's iron. Is that one that I saw? Yeah, it was iron. Iron is insane. The amount of APY one can have for iron is simply insane, and something I would definitely not want to personally put capital in. But all you got to do is take a look at like Yearn Finance or what have you and see these astronomical APY percentages in the 20s, in the 50s, in the hundreds percent APY, and see the kind of irrational price fluctuations of these assets. And it doesn't it all it a monkey can understand that this is something to be sketched out about, much like how some people were sketched out about certain ICOs in the previous run. Having said that, this is and could be the catalyst that brings Bitcoin's price to $100,000. If there is a way to begin yield farming wrapped Bitcoin or some other kind of exploit of cryptocurrencies in general, to the point where en masse everyone is now doing it and every single project is doing it, this can temporarily and affect macro movements of Bitcoin to bring it up to a market cycle peak. That, in conclusion, I don't think it's necessarily one of something. I don't think it's just going to be, Apple buying Bitcoin that will bring it up. I don't think it's, a favorable hearing from the XRP or favorable saying from the SEC about the cryptocurrency community that's going to bring up the price. Nor do I think it's going to be DeFi alone, NFTs alone, or some new project that we don't know alone that's going to bring up the price from $38,000 to $100,000. If anything, it's going to be a mixture of everything. And it's going to be a mixture of Apple buying Bitcoin, followed by maybe a favorable decision made by for XRP, along with DeFi, along with NFTs, and along with potentially a new project or a young project like Uniswap or Polkadot to help bring the price up from $38,000 to $100,000. All in all, the price of Bitcoin will continue to increase to a market cycle peak sometime in the near future. How close, I cannot say, but probably not this year. But with 2 years' time, we'll be talking about a new market cycle peak of Bitcoin. And at that point, regardless what happens, I still think the price is going to increase, regardless of whether X, Y, or Z happens. But I can guarantee you, at that point and after, news outlets, talking heads, we're all going to be looking back and saying it is obvious that X, Y, and Z was the cause of the last Bitcoin bull run. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you have any questions down below. Um, Again, I think this is extremely speculative and honestly not really worth the time to talk only if unless you're having fun with it. For me, I am having fun with it. It's fun to think about what could be the next catalyst for Bitcoin to get to a new market cycle peak. It's something that I'm sure everyone dreams about, and I'm sure it's something that you dream about as well, but it doesn't necessarily have to happen that way. Again, markets are complicated, they're complex. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of moving parts within the cryptocurrency space, along with the financial space, along with global political movements. Who would have, with not Venezuela, sorry, with El Salvador coming in and embracing Bitcoin, or even coronavirus happening, bringing down the price, roughly 60% to the wick, or 50% to the wick. There are things that in the moment may not make sense, but obviously in hindsight, we can look back and say, well, it's obviously this, which it most likely could be, but I would still argue that it would be a mixture of those thousands of moving parts that would have caused the price of Bitcoin to go up. We see patterns in the chart. There's no reason why we can't expect them to happen in the future, along with added risk. Anyway, that's all for today, you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.